All right, welcome to the back nine of the 2025 Jackson Park Open held at East Flat Rock Park. Got Dylan Seppala on the tee here.
So you got two main options here. You're going to see Dylan take the wide option, 360 downhill, throwing probably some kind of fairway driver or mid slot. He actually went quake there. There's also the up the gut flex shot with, again, fairway or mid. I'm going to be throwing backhand loots here. Just want to put a hyzer out around the telephone pole and let the disc work you down to the basket. Felt pretty good about my line here.
Thank you for pronouncing the name of that disc. I've always wondered how that was pronounced.
No problem.
So speaking of that power pole there, how much does that actually come into play? Did you hear anyone hit it during the day?
Definitely. So that bush right there in front of it, if you clip that at all and end up inside there, you might be better off re-teeing just because it's so thick.
Oh,
You're
man.
a tiny bit inside. But yeah, if you're taking the wide route and you end up missing it, this is one of the most dangerous tee shots on the course by far.
So absolutely risk reward if you're going high to the right.
Definitely. And if you remember, this is hole one on the previous video. So there's that fence over there to the right, and Caleb is really testing it. Thankfully, he hit some limbs that kicked him back to the left, so he's going to be safe. But there's that mistake that you really don't want to make. You don't want to miss right here, and he's fortunate enough to get through.
Mm-hmm.
Weston, the only one opting to go up the middle, executes it perfectly. That's a beautiful shot right there.
Yep, that's what you want.
Caleb from about 45, just a little bit short left. Not a bad putt. Brent executes from 25. I do have this tree a little bit in my way, but shouldn't be too bad for 20 feet left.
Yeah, great putt.
Thank you.
Yeah, this being an MPO card, I absolutely expect you guys, once you get within 10, 15 feet, they should be dropping like flies into the basket.
Absolutely, especially on a course like this where getting birdies is so important. You really want to make sure you're taking advantage of all of your circle one butts.
Mm-hmm.
Weston with a great birdie up the middle. So that means we're going to see 4 out of 5 birdies. Caleb with the only par on the hole. Dylan being close enough to count it as good inside the bullseye.
Yeah.
Or just outside, sorry.
With his height and wingspan, he should be able to just reach over and tap it in.
Exactly.
I've had the opportunity to film both Dylan and Brent many, many times, and I've known those two guys for years. I was excited to see them duking it out on camera here.
Yeah, they're good dudes. I always enjoy playing with them.
All right. Hole 2. This is playing the long tee this time. So this is going to be a tougher version of what we saw of the short before. What's the gap like here?
Yeah, so there's two real options. You can go wide with the hyzer, like you see Dylan here, or you can go up the middle. I wish the middle was a little bit more cleaned up limb-wise because I think it would be the better gap. Instead, there's just too many limbs to make it justifiable. So instead, I'm trying to throw this wide hyzer at those trees on the right, let it swing back in, and threw a really good shot. Just didn't get ultimately the ground play that I was hoping to get, so I ended up about 40 feet.
Now, at this point in the day, is the grass still pretty wet?
Definitely, and again, as I mentioned in the front nine, the rain is keeping it because it's a little more saturated than it might normally be from dew or something like that.
Yeah.
There is the up the middle attempt. Pulls it just a little bit, hits the tree, kicks down in the fairway. So he'll have to scramble up his par.
Wow, straight up the gut there.
Yeah, great line from Caleb. End up right about circle's edge. Weston actually having to throw a really technical shot through some limbs. Executes the gap really well to get himself a good look at par. Brent got hung up a little early.
I feel like it's a consistent theme on this course that the trees, the ceiling is kind of low.
Definitely. Like you mentioned in the front nine, it's a little bit of a new course. So you still, just some things haven't been played in quite enough. So you got some limbs and stuff. Caleb with a great putt. I just missed right. Caught some chains. And never had a chance to catch, but a decent bit from circle 2. Dylan's still perfect through 11 holes.
Weston, a little bit of a tester here for his par. There we go.
Great putt. So one of the tougher holes, only 2 birdies from our card. All right, hole 3, 255 feet. This is, if you remember, the short, really tight gap shot from the first 9. We're pushing it back about 60, 70 feet, and now that gap isn't really as accessible. Instead, you're going to see this wide forehand thrown at that gap or the one to the right of it. Either one works. Dylan takes the outside, parks it. 12 through 12.
Man, Dylan is just on a tear right now.
Yeah, he's doing what you want to be doing through this course right now. Executing every shot, not leaving himself many putts in the first few holes. Caleb just pulls it a little bit, ends up going toward the next tee box, thankfully not actually hitting them.
That'll wake him up.
So I'm actually throwing it at that middle tree, hoping to hyzer just in front of it. It starts to hyzer just a tiny bit too late. I feel like I threw it perfect, just barely clipped the tree. Can't be upset with execution there. Maybe just aim a little bit more right. Brent goes wide. Unfortunate ground play there. We were wondering how to end up in that spot. Seemed like a good shot. Weston's got a good forehand. I was surprised to see him throwing the backhand turnover here, but he executes it well.
I know everybody else is predominantly discraft. What about Weston? What's he throwing a mix of?
Yeah, he was actually a trilogy guy. He was throwing a long bowman, which I haven't heard of anybody throwing in a good long while, as Brent knocks down a great circle 2 putt. Yeah, throwing a warship, putting with some pures. I tried to give it a run there. Just a little bit in front of the basket. Ended up making my par putt. And you're only going to see Dylan and Brent getting a 2 here.
And Dylan didn't have to work for that one, really.
Nope, not at all.
All right, hole 4, playing from the long tee this time. Still got the creek in play in the middle here. Longer version of the shot we had before.
Yeah, as I mentioned, hole 1 being a really dangerous tee shot. This I would factor in as maybe the second or third most challenging tee shot, just because it's a tight gap. 330 uphill with forehand, probably playing more like 340, 350, and also really only one angle. Tough to get a flex to play through here and get back far enough right. So playing is a super challenging, super demanding tee shot for a forehand, and there going to be the gravel that I mentioned in the front nine. Brent's a little bit inside, going to have a really fun putt from the gravel. Caleb pulls it.
I like the variation from the short tee to the long tee here, because the short tee, it's really all about, okay, do you have something that can hook out there and dump back in the basket? But the long tee is, you've got a gap here, too.
Absolutely.
Oh, great shot.
Thank you. Yes, this is one where I felt like I could really gain a stroke on Dylan, who was playing perfect and missed just a little bit. So I was happy to execute that shot there. Caleb actually kicked to a pretty open spot, pitching up his zone. Should have a pretty simple par.
That's the first one he's missed.
Yep. Even after a slightly errant tee shot, it even still ends up in circle 2 and gives it a decent bid.
Well, here's a lie that you don't want to have.
Definitely. Just off the band. Good par from Caleb.
Yeah, clean it up nicely here. Again, excellent tee shot. Are you a forehand dominant player, or are you just as comfortable with backhands?
Yeah, definitely a forehand dominant player. So feels good to get the hole that I should get and get a stroke back on Dylan and Brent. And Caleb. All right, hole 5. This is going to be that same green with the drop-off behind that we saw previously. This one, 270 down the hill. You really just want to throw something out to the left and let it swing in. We felt a head right to left here. So I was really expecting, and there you can see the wind as I skip, and it lifts it up again. I was expecting the wind to drop my Toro more, just because I was throwing it on that hyzer angle. I thought the wind would catch it, smack it down. Dylan with a great tee shot. Instead, I ended up getting a little bit more right and a little bit more carry to where I'm actually outside the circle. So felt like I executed the wind read there, just didn't quite read it right. Brent with a similarly good shot. Overstable approach disc. Caleb's got this a little inside, a little fluffed. He'll have to work for his birdie, but still a putt.
Yeah, the slope of the green makes this one so much more difficult, especially from the long tee.
Ooh. Absolutely. Weston airs it, goes 40 deep. A little bit high on his putt. I'm putting back up the hill. Gave it a good bid, and just, I mean, it is on the hill, so I guess you can't quite call it super unfortunate, but I was putting back up the hill, so I guess that's one of those situations where you just don't want to miss low, and miss low, end up taking a bogey, which is, it feels like a double on a course like this, where birdie is so important. You just cannot afford to get a bogey. Caleb with a great putt. But definitely a little frustrating to feel like I read the wind correctly and then end up a little farther right than I wanted. And then to feel like I gave it a good bid and then roll away and take a bogey. So just got to be better executing off the tee and or on the green to avoid the bogey here on 5 or 14, I guess.
Yeah, tough to get punished when you're doing the right things.
Yeah, that's how it felt for sure.
All right, hole 6, par 3, going from the long tee again with this one, 320 feet. You got the creek in play. Yeah, a little bit different gap here, but just lots more foliage you have to deal with.
Definitely. One of the, again, with hole 4 and hole 1, one of the more dangerous, tricky tee shots on the course. The forehand flex shot fits the gap better than any other shot, just because you can start it out on the right in the most open part of the gap, bring it over to the left at the end of the gap, which is the more open part, and then let it finish back at the basket. Dylan executes it pretty well, leaves it a little short. Brent loved this one out of his hand.
Mm-hmm.
Great shot. Really challenging hole, and so far, 2 pretty good tee shots.
Yeah, I was trying to think of what other throwing options there would be, and it's if you're doing anything besides what the guys have been doing so far, and it looks like Caleb's getting ready to do as well, it's almost like you're conceding a par to this one and you're not giving it a chance.
Either that or playing for a little bit of luck once you get up to the green. I saw a couple guys on other cards throwing the backhand flex shot, trying to just get lucky through the last maybe 50 or 60 feet of the hole to give themselves a putt.
Oh. I'd be curious to see how that worked out for them.
Not great. So once again, pretty challenging hole, and we've got 4 inside the circle or close to it.
Mm-hmm. I feel like this one lines up pretty well for you, though, being forehand dominant.
Definitely one I want to get, one I feel I can get strokes on, and I just fluffed it. Not the angle I was looking for, not the pop I was looking for. Ended up about 70 short. Really disappointing result on a hole that I feel like I should be getting.
Great upshot with that berg, though.
Yeah, it's really great. My friend always says the berg means under the basket in Swedish.
The amount of if someone's throwing a berg, then they're throwing that type of shot with it often.
Yeah, great for giving it a chance to go in while still being able to keep it pretty close to the basket.
So this one actually played the most difficult of the round for this one.
Yeah, that is not surprising, and yet here in MPO, I'm the only par on a forehand hole. So pretty frustrating. Great execution from my card mates. Hole 7, back to it. Same hole, going to be the same for 2 more rounds. Just got to be mentally strong enough to keep executing the same shot as the pressure builds throughout each 9 holes coming down the stretch of these last few.
Yeah, that's a great point. I feel like this is one that can get away from you by accident when you absolutely need it to happen.
I agree 100%. You asked the question in the front 9, do you count it as a gimme? And you definitely do. And that mentality, as we see Brent correct here a little bit on his a little bit undercommitted shot in the first 9, those are great. You can kind of take it for granted and mess it up, or you can start overthinking it and mess it up. So really important to be a mentally strong golfer on this hole and just throw the shot that you know you can throw that's 190 feet that goes straight. Weston's got this shot dialed right now.
Oh, yeah. Berg power.
Once again, just trying to give it a bid, and just a little short. This is our farthest putt from the basket, about 12 feet.
Yeah, this is pretty much an easy day to office for you guys. Nice short putts.
Indeed. And so far, 10 for 10 as the MPO division on this hole after these last 2 cleanups from Dylan and Brent. So good execution from us so far. We'll see if that keeps up in the second round. Hole 8, par 4. Probably the hardest hole on the course. The tee shot is tricky because you want to get left, but there's a lot of stuff on the left that doesn't let you get left enough. And then, even on a great shot, like you're going to see here from Dylan, hits a tree.
So do you feel like this is a well-designed long version of the hole, or do you feel like there's some poke and hope that's part of it?
I think it's really close to being awesome. We were talking about it as a card, and it's got great potential as a whole. Brent absolutely crushing one, getting through everything, getting up there to a great spot. He's still you'll see the approach shot, I think, makes the hole. This first shot, you just want to kind of throw a hyzer through and get up to a spot where you can get up to the green. The shot up to the green is spectacularly designed as Caleb pulls this and misses right, which you just can't do on this hole. 600 feet through woods, it's playing pretty far, and hitting early is just super punishing on a hole like this.
Mm-hmm. I think Weston's looking at his options here.
Feels like he's missed some opportunities, so maybe trying to push a little bit more than he normally would, just with being a few strokes off pace. Ends up ultimately deciding to go the more suggested play of a backhand up the middle.
Yeah.
I think that's the right decision.
Yeah, it worked out well for him. He keeps looking over there, though.
Yeah, it's definitely there. You just can't tell from the tee, but where you're throwing from off the tee, that those trees on the right and left both make it difficult to really get a distance shape on your disc, which is what you want if you're going to try to throw that more risky line.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb is an important shot here. Scrambles up to a pretty decent spot. He's going to have probably around 300 into the pin. Probably a pretty open look as well. Dylan pulls this a little. Yeah, that road up there is OB. I'm going for this wide gap. I'm trying to throw over that road. It's about 315, but again, uphill. So playing a little farther, I'm going my most stable destroyer and end up going about 30 feet deep. So really happy with that effort. Didn't get it in any danger as far as the road goes. Caleb here trying to execute his up and down from about 300, like I mentioned. Those are perfect. That is such a sick par to save. Here's Brent after his great drive. He's got an approach disc into the basket, which is such a luxury to have. Executes, takes advantage. Well done. Dylan puts it close. Weston for his birdie. Tough look with those bushes in his way. I convert on my 30-footer down the hill for birdie.
Great shot. Brent follows up the same.
Yep. And this is one of the holes that probably played the most difficult to birdie. Maybe not the most difficult to par, one of the toughest to birdie, just because it takes two good shots, especially the second shot, getting up to this well-guarded green.
Mm-hmm.
And excuse me, I believe that Dylan actually did go out of bounds on that shot. I forgot. And so he ended up cleaning up his bogey on that hole. Hole 9, the last hole. 450 feet. Tight gap to go backhand flex shot. You can just play a safe forehand. I'd only gotten to practice this in the rain, so I didn't think it was even possible necessarily to get down to the basket. So you're going to see me elect to go safer. Brent rips this one, gets through everything, and he's got a putt for two.
That is crazy.
Inside the circle. I'm not happy about that one. Felt like I was playing it safe, playing a safe shot. End up clipping a single leaf that kicks me down maybe 100 feet off the tee box. So I'm going to have to throw a pretty good scramble shot to get up and down on what should be a really, really easy birdie.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb also going for the more aggressive backhand flex shot. Pulls it a tiny bit, gets through, and is again, similar to Brent, going to have a circle 2 look for a 2 after some good ground play and a good shot. Weston also electing to lay up, throws it pretty nice. All right, I've got about, oh wait, Dylan's got to throw after that bogey. So again, he was 15 down through 16 holes, ends up taking a bogey to put him 14 through 17. It felt like he really had a good hold on the tournament just because of the scoring separation, and then kind of let everybody back into it. Now, he's still in the lead by 2 shots, so he's not losing by any means, but that 2-stroke swing was a big deal. I'm going forehand over the road, which is OB, about 320 away, execute it really well. It's the left side of the road that's OB, so I'm safe there.
Oh, okay.
Weston giving it a bid. Dylan was giving that a good bit as well. Here's Caleb for 2. Dead center. Great eagle.
Brent hoping to do the same. And he does.
And he will. Good finish from them. I've got to make this circle's edge putt for a birdie.
Yeah. So yeah, you're spot on there. I mean, by virtue of what he did on the last hole, suddenly the door has opened and you guys have closed the gap. Great putt on Weston.
After what seemed like he had the momentum for about an hour and a half of course time, just because he was birdieing everything. He'd missed one hole.
It's the nature of this course, though, I suppose.
Definitely.
All right, we are through round 1. Dylan at 15 down, still shot at 1038, but Brent and Caleb are not far behind, and Lucas is right on the tail, too. Weston at 6 down. Thanks for watching, and check out round 2.